every power plant and major bridge in Iran if the Strait of Hormuz was not fully reopened by 8 p.m. Eastern, warning that, quote, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. Less than 2 hours before that deadline, the U.S. and Iran reached a tentative 2-week ceasefire brokered by Pakistan, under which Iran agreed to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Trump announced the deal on social media, calling it a, quote, double-sided ceasefire, and saying Iran had put forward a, quote, workable 10-point peace plan. Iran's Supreme National Security Council said it accepted the terms, but warned its, quote, hands remain on the trigger. Crowds of people gathered in Tehran and other cities, waving flags to celebrate the news of the 2-week ceasefire. Early on Tuesday, the U.S. struck military targets on Iran's Kharg Island, the source of nearly all of Iran's oil exports. U.S.-Israeli strikes also completely destroyed the Rafinia synagogue in Tehran, home to one of Iran's few remaining Jewish communities. This is Siamak Moreh Sedr, a Jewish former member of Iran's parliament.
They are not enemy of Iranian army. They are enemy of Iranian people. They are enemy of Iranian nation, because Iranian people are great people who does not want to obey the Zionism and the USA. And when you do not want to obey the powerful man who wants to follow Satan, they would attack you, of course. So their propaganda that we want to help the Iranian people, I think is a joke. Unbelievable joke from them.
Israeli forces continue to bomb Beirut, demolish homes, and evacuate villages as they push deeper into the south of Lebanon. Since March 2nd, Israeli attacks have killed nearly 1,500 people, including 129 children, according to Lebanon's health ministry. The Israeli military struck the southern city of Tyre Wednesday after issuing forced evacuation notices to residents. More than 1.1 million people, nearly 1 in 5 Lebanese, are now displaced. This comes as Israel says the U.S.-Iran ceasefire announced Tuesday does not apply to Lebanon, despite Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif declaring of a, quote, immediate ceasefire everywhere, including Lebanon and elsewhere. This is Naim Saleh, a resident of Beirut.
The big reading for Israel is that they don't want to stop. They want to carry on wars to blackmail the entire region, naturally. Where will this lead? To more wars and more destruction. In all cases, Lebanon to be excluded. Iran won't abandon Lebanon. Iran certainly won't abandon Lebanon.
Despite the ceasefire, Iran continued to launch retaliatory strikes throughout the region. 3 boys in southern Israel were wounded by an Iranian missile fired after Trump announced the truce. No. A security official tells the Times of Israel that the Israeli Air Force is continuing to carry out strikes in Iran. In the United Arab Emirates, operations were suspended at the Habshan gas complex due to fires from falling projectile debris after what Abu Dhabi described as a, quote, successful interception of an Iranian missile. Earlier on Tuesday, Iran's Revolutionary Guard said they had attacked Saudi Arabia's Jebel petrochemical complex in retaliation for strikes on an Iranian petrochemical facility the night before. The King Fahd Causeway, a series of bridges linking Saudi Arabia to the island country of Bahrain, closed again Tuesday amid Iranian missile attacks. Oil prices swung wildly Tuesday as the U.S.-Iran war entered a new phase. Brent crude surged to $117 a barrel as President Trump threatened to demolish Iran's civilian infrastructure. After the announcement of the 2-week ceasefire, oil prices plunged more than 16%, falling below $100 a barrel for the first time in weeks. The head of the International Air Transport Association says it would still take months for jet fuel prices to stabilize once the Strait of Hormuz fully reopens.
And if it were to reopen and remain open, I think it will still take a period of months to get back to where supply needs to be, given the disruption to the refining capacity in the Middle East, which is a critical part of the global supply of refined products, and not just jet fuel, for other products as well. So it will probably take months.
American freelance journalist Shelley Kittleson has been released after being held for 1 week by the Iran-backed Iraqi militia, Kataib Hezbollah. 49-year-old Kittleson was abducted from a Baghdad street corner on March 31st. The militia freed her in a prisoner swap after Iraqi authorities agreed to release several members of the militia who had previously been detained. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed her release, saying the U.S. is working to support her return from Iraq. In Louisiana, 22-year-old biochemistry student Annie Ramos walked out of a federal immigration jail on Tuesday, 5 days after ICE agents entered her husband's army base to arrest her. As part of her release, Ramos was fitted with an ankle monitor and told to report to ICE every week. She just married 23-year-old Staff Sergeant Matthew Blank days prior to her arrest. Ramos was brought to the United States from Honduras as an infant. In 2020, she applied to the DACA program, that's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, but her application was never processed. In California, federal immigration agents shot a man Tuesday after stopping his car in the Central Valley town of Patterson. The shooting left Carlos Ivan Mendoza Hernandez hospitalized. ICE Director Todd Lyons said in a statement that agents fired, quote, defensive shots after Hernandez weaponized his sedan in an attempt to run over an officer. Video obtained by Sacramento NBC affiliate KCRA-TV shows Hernandez reversing away from officers who appear to be reaching into his car. The officers draw their guns as Hernandez backs into another car, then appear to open fire as Hernandez drives forward. ICE has not said how many shots were fired. ICE agents have shot at least 8 people in 2026. Meanwhile, ICE has arrested more than 800 people following tips shared by Transportation Security Administration officials since the start of Donald Trump's second term. That's according to Reuters, which reports the TSA supplied ICE with records on more than 31,000 travelers for possible immigration enforcement.
That's crazy.
Trump administration's officials told a federal judge Tuesday that they still seek to deport Kilmar Abrego Garcia to Liberia, a country to which he has no ties. The Maryland father first made headlines in March when he was wrongfully deported to El Salvador, where he was held in the notorious Seacott mega prison. Abrego Garcia was returned to the United States after months of public outrage, but the Trump administration has since tried repeatedly to send him to one of several African countries who've agreed to accept third country deportees. Abrego Garcia's lawyers have argued that if he must be deported, it should be to Costa Rica, which has agreed to accept deportees who cannot safely return to their home countries. Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen has threatened to withdraw Customs and Border Protection officers from airports in sanctuary cities that limit cooperation with federal immigration agents. The move would effectively halt international travel, tourism, and commerce, though major airports in Chicago, Denver, Los Angeles, New York, Seattle, San Francisco, and elsewhere. This comes as the partial government shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security has entered its 54th day.
There's not going to be any fucking travel. We're screwed. What are we going to do? Not going to be able to fly, dude.
With no signs that it will end before Congress returns from a 2-week recess on April 14th. A United Nations expert is warning that Mexico is facing a, quote, toxic crisis driven in part by the United States' use of its southern neighbor as a waste disposal site. Marcos Oriana, the UN Special Rapporteur on Toxics and Human Rights, conducted an 11-day investigative mission in Mexico, finding that weak environmental regulations and a lack of oversight have allowed pollution to accumulate, turning communities into what he called, quote, sacrifice zones. Government records show the U.S. exports hundreds of thousands of tons of hazardous waste to Mexico each year, including lead-acid car batteries. Meanwhile, Mexico has increased imports of waste to be burned as cheap fuel for industry. Oriana said the result is the, quote, legalized poisoning of people. And Vice President J.D. Vance traveled to Budapest Tuesday, where he appeared alongside Hungary's right-wing Prime Minister Viktor Orban 5 days before Sunday's parliamentary elections and openly campaigned for his re-election. Orban's Fidesz party is currently trailing the pro-EU opposition TISA party by double digits in the polls. Orban has been Prime Minister of Hungary since 2010, making him the European Union's longest-serving leader. Here's Vice President Vance on Tuesday.
Will you stand against the bureaucrats in Brussels? Will you stand for sovereignty and democracy? Will you stand for Western civilization?
You're disgusting.
Will you stand for freedom, for truth, and for the God of our fathers? Then, my friends, go to the polls in the weekend, stand with Viktor Orban.
Meanwhile, President Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., traveled to Bosnia's Republic of Srpska in a visit widely seen as a gesture of support for Milorad Dodik, the pro-Russian leader who was stripped of his mandate last year after a court banned him from politics. The Biden administration had imposed sanctions on Dodik in 2022 over his separatist policies, which were later lifted by the Trump administration last year. During his visit, Don Jr. called the European Union quote, a bit of a mess, and predicted a major fracture between the bloc's eastern and western member states. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.
That's fucking right, isn't it? Yeah.
How do you stop a war that people already oppose? Well, as with so many things in democracy and politics, there is a spectrum and there is volume, and Trump already has an unpopular war on his hands with a gas price problem, which is part of why he is almost desperately seeking a quick off-ramp, perhaps thinking that his threats will work. We've discussed how they are unlawful either way. But now we're seeing more cracks on the right. Tucker Carlson, who literally campaigned for Donald Trump last cycle, was at the convention giving the speech, now condemning this, and something we've also seen criticism of, which is that Donald Trump always has his own style, yada, yada, but the profane, vulgar, and increasingly erratic behavior, some of which landed on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, sure.
Killing non-combatants, people who did nothing wrong, who didn't choose this war, who were just people created by God. That is immoral. That will never be moral. That can never be justified. That is always wrong. How dare you speak that way on Easter morning to the country? Who do you think you are? You are not God. And only if you think you are do you talk this way.
Damn.
To send out a tweet with the...
Like when Tucker Carlson is spitting bars in America that are actually true. Like, we got a problem.
F-word on Easter morning, promising the murder of civilians and then saying praise be to Allah without explaining any of it? That is evil.
Now, you can look at this a number of ways.
Funny.
How dare you? Who do you think you are, Tucker asks, as if he has not seen Donald Trump's entire political career, or one could argue public life, when it comes to vulgarity, or timing, or a thirst for a type of dominance and violence that has no bearing in ethics or justice. If those are your issues with Trump, they are not new. And yet on the other side, I promised you the other side, politics is addition. And if the anti-war movement, combined with what we saw, a very powerful No Kings movement, is going to build and add, it may welcome people, at least on a momentary or effective basis, like Tucker Carlson, because they at least agree on the fact that Donald Trump lied about this war and brought us into it, and we need to get out of it. That's what they might say together.
Right.
Speaking of strange bedfellows, I've mentioned in our coverage that Alex Jones is a conspiracy theorist who cannot be relied upon for anything factual.
He's actually
but in politics,
CIA.
where everybody's sounding
He's a
off,
CIA
he
op.
is now a longtime MAGA right-wing figure who sounds like a resistance warrior, bringing up, and you might remember this from the first term, talk of removing Trump early through the 25th Amendment.
Yeah, he's mad.
How do we 25th Amendment his ass?
Tackle Trump and let him pretend he's president and publicly report that he's going through a health issue and Vance take over. It literally needs to be something like that. It's that bad.
This is some lawyer
I've known
he's
you a
talking
long
to.
time. You've never called for an internal coup before.
Ever. That's how dangerous this is.
called
That's
for
how
an
risky it is
internal
for the
coup
whole
before.
If
That's
you
right.
are a conservative, a MAGA fan, or a
Holy
right-winger who gets a lot of information
shit.
online, you are definitely hearing about some of this. You believe in the Overton window, the largest sort of way that ideas are filtered
That's
and
right.
presented. This is becoming mainstream on the
Sorry,
right.
chat.
The idea that the war is bad, that Donald Trump lied, and that maybe he is past his sell-by date. MAGA voters also upset.
Why are you going
There's
down
news
the
that a
one
popular
key
MAGA
frame?
store temporarily closed after the owner says they couldn't sell. It started with the war. It was dead as a doornail, they relayed. There's also
Wow. That's actually crazy.
the wider rift with young men who say they're lied to. Former staffers being quoted as saying MAGA is effectively dead going into these midterms, and people feeling betrayed. I'm joined now by Molly Jong-Fast, contributing opinion writer with the New York Times,
Molly.
host of the Fast Politics
My girl.
podcast, and in the only
What?
light note we may get tonight, Molly,
The
I will
fuck?
say, and a guest who we found to be much more
Echo,
credible
echo.
than Alex Jones. Welcome.
Thank you.
Alex Jones.
Thank you for having me.
That's right.
Thanks for being here. Serious times. I've had some serious guests. We've mentioned the horror of it. While everyone is hoping for an off-ramp that makes all
was
of this
that?
look like,
Thanks
oh
for
gosh, we
being
had
here.
to deal with what were war crime threats
fuck?
from a sitting president, but maybe we don't go there. Maybe that doesn't happen tomorrow. But either way, on the politics for you, it would seem that people are not afraid on the right of saying that this is a bad war and they want out.
Yeah, it is very interesting to see Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson on the same side as Nancy Pelosi, right? That is something I probably thought I would
Nancy
never see.
Pelosi.
Here's what I would
I
say
know, right?
about this. If you look back to 2016, Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson, and remember, at that time, Tucker Carlson was mainstream MAGA, right? And Alex
he
Jones
was on
was
Fox
sort of
News.
fringe MAGA. They were in very different places because Tucker Carlson was on Fox News. But at that point, you had these two people were really instrumental in Trump getting the nomination. Right, because they were the people, they were the ad, right? It was a huge field, and they were the people who were able to add to the base.
Yes.
Fast forward, right? They are the purest distillation of MAGA, those two. And, you know, they represent a huge group of people, right? They talk to, and they may be representing them, they may be reflecting them.
They may.
Either way, this is trouble for Trump.
who knows?
And I think, you know, it comes back to the idea
really knows?
that Trump ran on this America First platform. What was right? And the history of America First, well, it's wrapped up in anti-Semitism and a lot of other anti stuff and racism and whatever. It is also wrapped up in anti-intervention. And
What the
so
hell?
the minute Donald Trump put together this war, he really started losing those people. And then the explosive rhetoric, and we're 5 weeks into it.
And the numbers show Trump is very unpopular. That may sound obvious to
Yeah.
everyone, but some of the narratives that were cooked in 24, I mean,
He's so unpopular.
he did have a comeback. That was a long time ago. That was before the year of this governance,
The
and
year
the high
of our
prices and now the
Lord.
war. And so he's really
1992.
unpopular in a way that he and his aides might not realize. I mean, people like Rogan and Tucker are reading the room of the internet, where the comments and the numbers come in fast. And they may try to get by, but if they have to choose between Trump and themselves. If
Well,
Tucker
they're
has
gonna
to choose
choose
between
themselves.
Trump and
He's right.
Tucker, we know where he lands. And he has been so public. His brand has been so tied to fighting this kind of war. And he opposed the Iran war in the first term. Whatever you think of Tucker, I will note that that was public at the time. So he's now saying, well, I'm not going to try to pretend to my entire audience the opposite. And so look at, I'm going to play a little more of Tucker and Jones where he's, this is new. Tucker admits, yeah, hey, I campaigned for him. You know, he's trying to kind of level with his folks, but say this war is bad. We've got to
said before,
stop
I never supported
evil
him.
was one of the words he used. Take a look.
I never supported him.
I voted
Some
for Trump.
said I did.
Oh, well, yeah, I campaigned for Trump.
It was
Yeah.
a lot.
when I look back on it, I was sold
Same
a
with
straight
Alex.
lie.
You think?
We are not in Kansas anymore. We are
not in
grave
Kansas
danger.
anymore.
This is total red alert.
I'm
Red
confused.
alert.
I can't believe we went to this war. When we started bombing Iran, I was like, this can't be true.
95% of Trump supporters I know are completely against this.
I'm completely against this.
My question for you now is, what does the anti-war movement and the
95%
No
of the
Kings
people I know are
pro-democracy movement do
completely
with
against
this? Because it's very tempting for some to look and go, really, you're shocked that Donald Trump lied to you about
I know,
something?
right?
What have you been living through and
Yeah, like,
watching?
where-
And yet,
what world
emotionally,
have you
that
been
might
living
get
in?
you through the moment. But I don't know that it helps the anti-war movement if there are ways to use politics to have a better outcome than what the president is threatening.
Yeah, and I'd like to go back to what you said before, because they are reflecting a real thing they are seeing. And if you want to go deeper on this phenomenon, look at Ben Shapiro's YouTube channel, because he has got a staunchly pro-war message, and he is just bleeding supporters. So you have to remember, these people have their finger on the pulse. And what I think is the most surprising thing about this moment is that you're not seeing Republican electeds put this together. These people are the canary in the coal mine. They are showing you what your base wants, and your base doesn't want this. And so the question is, I don't necessarily think it's for the Democrats to accept these people. These people are Republicans. They are the MAGA base, and they will ultimately, they are going to break with Trump. I don't think they're going to become, Democratic voters, but it doesn't matter.
No, they're going to break.
Because
they're going to break with Trump. They're going to find another person to support and try MAGA 2.0
for them.
MAGA 2.0, folks. That's right. We got the MAGA 2.0 coming out strong, just like the rest. Okay, let's see what Waters has to say.
Democrats with 2028 dreams apparently want to treat 2020 as just one bad left-wing acid trip.
Cat's back.
Axios is reporting on how some folks who are weighing White House.
Honestly, if I was to talk to anyone on the 5, it'd probably be Kat. I could probably relate to her the most.
Runs
but
we're likely to just forget many of the radical positions they took years ago. Quote, leaders and would-be leaders in the party have shifted their views on border security, DEI, crime, climate change, COVID-era lockdowns, and more, all with an eye on this year's midterms and the 2028 presidential election. But the internet's forever.
Oh.
The bill to form a commission to study how to do reparations. Would you sign that bill?
When I am elected president, I will sign that bill.
Of course I would sign it. I would.
Yes, I would.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
A hierarchy of values in this country that diminishes certain people based on their color of the skin.
We are over-policed as a society, that we are investing in police, which is not solving problems,
he definitely
but making them
backed off
worse.
this.
We made it the law of our land to provide college financial aid to transgender students.
And rebrand season doesn't stop there. Dems are also trying to code switch as Republicans. According to NBC, tax cuts are the hottest new idea for Democrats, but they still want big hikes for the rich. Jesse, could this work? Do you think the Democrats could convince people? I feel like, the government talks about cutting taxes a lot more often than it does actually do so. Do you think that they could convince people with this?
Well, I don't know, because it's pretty slimy. Usually politicians flip-flop, but I've never seen a party flip, flop, flop, flop. Greg made an analogy in the commercial break. Permission to use Greg's analogy?
I'm afraid of what I said.
Greg said the Democrats have gone so crazy and then so full circle, they came back to the missionary position.
Oh, that's
Remember,
right.
they just started missionary position and they experimented with everything, and I mean everything. And now they are back to missionary.
You have to say that when we see J.B. Pritzker on the screen.
Sorry. But I mean, look at them in the 90s. Like they were pretty strong on crime, on the border, on culture, on energy. They were like a Bill Clinton Democrat. Then they went crazy, and now they're trying to go back to normal. Do I trust them? No, because I think if they get elected, they're going to go full freak again. And now their party's so full of freaks, the freaks aren't going to tolerate straight edge common sensors.
How can they
and
be
it's going to be a civil
trying to
war.
be
But
Republican
yes,
and then go so far left
with
because they're
Democrats
red
about how much taxes we can cut. That's an argument I'd enjoy.
Dana?
Well, I think it's hilarious that they
Cut
want to
taxes.
pretend that they're pro-tax cuts because it's actually structural for them. The reason Gavin Newsom is called Governor U-Haul is because people are leaving the state because it's
What?
structural. Why did
Who
the
calls
energy
him that?
companies leave the state? Because
Governor
it's structural,
U-Haul.
because of, like when you pay a gallon
No
of gas.
one's doing that.
Part of it is a
No one's
61-cent
leaving.
excise tax, amongst other
That's
things.
bullshit,
so it's a
dude.
highly regulated place in the union, and so everybody is leaving this beautiful location because
they
can't
aren't.
take the policies anymore.
No,
I
we
don't
aren't.
think that this
Shut
kind of
up.
rebranding works anymore. Partly because there's tapes,
We're not leaving
and there's the
California.
internet, and we can play them all. But also because this is not where the energy of the Democratic Party is. The energy there is so far left that they think these people who are pretending to be Bill Clinton are not where they want to go. So
Okay, she is 100% right about that. She is reading that for sure.
I think it'll be really hard for some people like a Rahm Emanuel, who I might say, I agree with that. I could do, he's for school choice. Okay, there's several things that I could agree with, but like the Democratic Socialists of America, they will never go for that.
Yeah, Greg, 2020 was a
Yeah,
wild
you
time,
got the DSA to
right?
contend
It would
with.
just be like, do you support the cops? And if you said yes, you'd be like, you hate gay people. And you're like, what? How's that even?
But here's the deal. Here's the deal. So the Dems hope we forget that. And we kind of have. Thanks for the montage, by the way. I think that Fox needs to run a montage like every hour on the hour. Because when you look at how it's like fracturing a little bit on the right with Trump, like you have all these other like people getting all angry in podcasts and stuff. It's because the context changed. You know, he's no longer up against Joe or Kamala or this woke monolith because we crushed it, but they're just asleep. He's by himself.
He's right, we're asleep.
So
bitch.
people aren't comparing him to what was and what he was up against. And they're also not thinking about what he will be up against in the future if the Republicans get shellacked in November. You can think that wokeism is dead, but it's not. It'll just, it's hibernating and it will
Woke
zombify.
2.0 is coming.
It's a zombie. It will come back in a different state, and it's YCAP.
He is 100% right, and he is scared, and I love it. Because Woke 2.0 includes healthcare for you, and you don't have to pay a fucking cent. It includes daycare, which is paid for, whether or not you're rich like him or poor like me.
I know you mock me. I continue to focus on trans. Why? Because it was the height of the attack on truth. You know, it was the ultimate woke Marxist flex to tell.
Sorry, you have not seen woke Marxists yet, sir. Just wait till woke 2.0. Holy shit.
People that ideology trumped biology. And if you see that point at you can't let people forget the trans thing, because that will come back, and it will come back in some kind of worse way that I can't even imagine. And then there will also be other areas that will resurface with borders and with law and order, cops. They'll find another way to demonize cops. DEI will come back. And we had one president who finally stood up to fight it, and we kind of forgot that we have to share the risk. You can't just let them twist out there, and we got to do the job. The candidates have to do the job for November, or he will be left, with a very small party.
Kellyanne, what do you think?
So the Democrats, it wasn't like they were at Woodstock when they were 19, burning bras or burning a flag. Like, this was a couple of years ago. We still have the same leaders. Like, it's not even, oh, I saw the light, I changed my mind, which is the American way. People can change their mind, that's fine. But they were boasting and posting about it. It wasn't in dark rooms. It wasn't quiet. And if you as a Democrat, let alone an independent, libertarian, a moderate Republican, disagreed, if you didn't affirmatively say what they were saying, you disagreed with them. And I know people who lost friends and family members over not putting the Black Lives Matter square on their Instagram identity or whatnot. But this is the thing. If the Democrats are for tax cuts, why didn't not one of them vote for the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, the Working Families Bill? Not one of them voted for the One Big Beautiful Bill, which included the largest tax cuts for the middle class ever. Double the child tax credit, tax cuts for employers, tax cuts for employees, the no tax on tips and Social Security and overtime. Not one Democrat, including the 11 Democrats, Kat, that reside in the districts that they won the day Donald Trump won in 2024. So those are split districts. The other thing is Rahm Emanuel. I was going to raise him, and then Dana did, so he gets 2 call-outs today. When he was the head of the DCCC, trying to win back the House in 2006 and did so successfully, Nancy Pelosi became Speaker. They actively recruited Democratic candidates that were pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, for tax cuts.
Veterans.
Were veterans. They were upset, small business owners, they were upset with Obamacare and what that had done. With the excesses of the war, and they were saying it. And then they lost it because they all voted for Obamacare, and she lost that in 2010. Why do I say that? Not only are they not recruiting anyone like that to match these districts or to match the rest of the other half of America, you're not welcome in the party. The Blue Dog Democrats, the tax-cutting, non-regulation, pro-small business Democrats are long gone. They are a relic of this party. No, and if we're going to allow the AOCs and the extremes to govern the party, the energy is on the far left. Dana, you're correct, but so is the money. What was the No Kings protest except a bunch of bored billionaires and their groups shoveling money for you to be anti-Trump, extreme. What? This city that we're sitting in, our city, voted for a socialist not that long ago. So the energy, the money, and I think more and more of the candidates are going that way. Don't be fooled. The Democrats have not changed their principles. They changed their packaging. They still believe all this.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox.
Uh-oh.
Fox News alert, the ships had better get moving in Strait of Hormuz. The U.S.-Iran 2-week ceasefire hinges on that narrow waterway where oil ships must make it through. Weeks of U.S. and Israeli airstrikes have massively weakened Iran's military. Right. However, the question, will it be the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, their military, to decide which ships go through Hormuz? We are watching very closely. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff gave an update a short time ago. Let's watch.
This morning, a big day for world peace. We have a chance at real peace and a real deal. The War Department, for now, has done its part. We stand ready in the background to ensure Iran upholds every reasonable term. And as everyone knows, nobody makes a better deal than President Trump.
We welcome the ongoing ceasefire, and as the Secretary said, we hope that Iran chooses a lasting peace. But as Secretary Hegseth said, let us be clear, a ceasefire is a pause, and the joint force remains ready if ordered or called upon to resume combat operations with the same speed and precision as we've demonstrated over the last 38 days, and we hope that that is not the case.
You heard the words there. We must remember that a ceasefire is just a pause. Everything's still on the table, potentially. The deal comes after a threat by the president that had some people up in arms. Congressman Dan Crenshaw summed it up this way in a post. A lot of pearl clutching from the usual suspects online and cable news about ending civilization. Take a breath. Do some critical thinking and pretend like we actually know how President Trump communicates. Should he be taken literally? You really believe he's going to vaporize the Persian population? Really? Have you been paying attention the last 11 years. Messages on state television called for Iranian citizens to form chains around key power sites to act as human shields in case of strikes on those power plants. A closer look shows those shields were mostly made up of young people, women, and children, a vivid reminder of how little the brutal regime cares for its own people.
Oh, yeah, they look really like
and
they're being...
it's a striking contrast to the images from January. If those same people were involved in the fierce anti-regime protesting, their own leaders would likely have shot them dead or publicly executed them. Iran has carried out a string of recent executions on alleged protesters, even in the days and hours leading up to the ceasefire we were covering it coming out of this weekend. Some estimates say the regime has killed more than 40,000 in connection with the unrest. Former Central Command Naval Forces Commander, Vice Admiral John Fozzie Miller, is coming up in focus. We are so glad to have him. We begin with Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst on the ground in Tel Aviv. Trey.
Harris, good morning. We start with breaking news. State media reports that Iran has halted the passage of oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz after Israeli attacks on Hezbollah in Lebanon. Earlier today, we know 2 vessels were able to go through this passageway. But again, state media is reporting that the Iranians are choking off the strait. I just got off the phone with a senior Israeli official who was sounding the alarm about this action by the Iranians, saying only just a few hours into this ceasefire, the Iranians are already showing that they are trying to leverage their control over the strait and put pressure on global energy trade. And it also comes after reports overnight indicate that an Iranian attack hit Saudi Arabia's east-to-west oil pipeline.
What do you mean?
And there was significant damage that was currently being assessed. This is important because this pipeline is the only outlet for Saudi crude exports.
Was Iran's people.
And as the Iranians are putting pressure on the strait, they once again are trying to leverage this ability to put pressure on global energy exports. It comes after we got a new statement from President Trump this morning about Iran's nuclear program. The president on Truth Social said the United States will work closely with Iran, which we have determined has gone through what they will be a very productive regime change. There will be no enrichment of uranium, and the United States will, working with Iran, dig up and remove all of the deeply buried nuclear dust. The president referring to Iran's enriched uranium there. And again, a lot of moving parts with this agreement that is very new. We saw overnight new strikes against Iranian oil infrastructure on Lavan Island. This is just off the coast of Iran. A refinery there was reportedly hit in early morning attacks. We don't know which country is responsible for the strikes, but we do know it comes after the Iranians broke the ceasefire hours after President Trump announced it, launching missiles and drones at regional countries and U.S. ally Israel. Here's what it looked like in the skies of Tel Aviv just 2 hours after the ceasefire went into effect.
What you just saw there was an Iranian ballistic missile with a cluster warhead, those bomblets raining down on Israel's second largest city of Tel Aviv. This came after the ceasefire was announced by President Trump and an indication that it will take time to get this agreement in place.
Yeah.
We're looking at a number of different fronts here, and the Israelis are preparing for the possibility of more incoming fire. But I do want to bring up this post by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu overnight, who agreed with President Trump about this ceasefire with Iran. The Prime Minister said in part, quote, Israel also supports the U.S. effort to ensure that Iran no longer poses a nuclear, missile, and terror threat to America, Israel, Iran's Arab neighbors, and the world. The 2-week ceasefire does not include Lebanon. Now, we heard from the president through reports earlier today who agreed with the prime minister. Hezbollah and Israel are expected to exchange blows. What you are looking at here is the Iranian capital of Tehran. Early this morning, pro-regime demonstrators took to the streets. They chanted death to America and death to Israel. They were chanting victory and burning American flags. It gives you a sense of the regime support that still exists in the Iranian capital. And when we go out here to this image of the Lebanese capital of Beirut, we may even have some live images for you here. Smoke was rising from the horizon of southern Beirut, the Dahia neighborhood, earlier today. While the ceasefire is in place between Israel, the United States, and Iran, the Israelis launched what they are calling the largest round of strikes since their operation began. More than 100 different targets hit across Lebanon. There are first responders there on the scene. These are live images from the Lebanese capital of Beirut. Remember, this is the Dakhia neighborhood of southern Beirut, a Hezbollah stronghold. Officials there in Beirut say dozens of people were wounded, many killed in the strikes that took place. And the Iranians, once again, through state media, are threatening direct retaliation against Israel for this strike against their largest proxy in the region. Harris?
Oh, boy, I got to tell you, this is the least ceasefire-like ceasefire I think that anybody might have anticipated. Iran certainly doesn't see it that way, obviously. Look, you had some breaking news, and I want to push in on it.
What about
was
Israel?
It overnight, you said, that Saudi Arabia's east-west oil pipeline, very critical movement of oil there, was hit by Iran. Was that before or after the ceasefire?
We don't know the exact timing of that strike, but it's very significant because this is the main pipeline that Saudi Arabia uses to move oil. And when the Strait of Hormuz is choked off, it's the only pipeline that they're able to use to get those exports out to the world. Something important here that we should note, it wasn't just Israel that came under attack after the ceasefire went into effect. This morning, there were dozens of drones launched at Kuwait from Iranian territory. The United Arab Emirates also came under an Iranian missile attack. There were reports of missiles toward Bahrain and Qatar. So as this is taking place, the Iranians don't appear very serious about this ceasefire agreement. The president has offered them a good
Lebanon
opportunity, a window of 2 weeks to reach a broader agreement. And we heard from the president before about Iran's nuclear program. I spoke with Israeli officials earlier today. They said despite these attacks on energy infrastructure across the region, the #1 priority for the Israeli military echelon and government is the enriched uranium. They understand that the Iranians were pursuing a nuclear weapon before, and they say that if that enriched uranium remains in the country, that in the future, Iran could be the new North Korea. Harris?
Wow, that's a lot to get to, and my first guest is perfect on all of it. Trey, thank you very much. In focus now, Vice Admiral John Fozzie Miller, former CENTCOM Naval Forces Commander. Sir, it is great to have you. Let's start with the Strait of Hormuz and the ceasefire and what it really looks like now that Iran can pick and choose who goes through there if they so see it. At least that's how it looks.
Well, good morning, Harris. Thanks for having me. Any long-term solution to this conflict when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz has to result in the Strait of Hormuz being open and free for commercial traffic without interference from Iran or from any other nation. It's an international strait, and the ability of Hormuz to function as an international strait is only being impeded by the Iranian regime. And so until that stops, it's very difficult to see any long-term resolution of this crisis.
So that's one thing. The other was what Trey Yingst was just describing right then, how Iran is continuing to threaten all of its neighbors. And look, the list got longer. I knew about Kuwait and Israel overnight after the ceasefire, but the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar. Admiral, those countries can't just sit there and be patient for 2 weeks. They got to fight. They got to defend themselves. I mean, you know, they've got incoming now, so they've got to fight that off defensively. That doesn't seem like a ceasefire.
I don't think it looks very much like a ceasefire anywhere you look, other than we've stopped bombing in Iran. The Iranians haven't stopped, and of course the GCC countries that have taken the brunt of this over the last month are continuing to receive incoming fire. So I think we'll get to a point very soon where the GCC can no longer wait to see what's going to happen, and they're going to start to take matters into their own hands and defend themselves through offensive action on their part.
How do you see actually what we're doing right now in terms of the capability that we've taken away from Iran? I mean, we haven't completely pulled out of that region. Should we? Do you anticipate that we would kind of pull back even more during the ceasefire to send a message? Or would you rather not see the U.S. do that?
Well, I think we're going to continue to see a buildup of forces. We have forces on the way that haven't arrived yet, and there's no reason to turn them around. So we ought to be using this opportunity for the next couple of weeks to resupply, to bring more forces into the region so that we're ready at any point if the ceasefire breaks down or if we're unable to negotiate a long-term agreement that's acceptable.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says because military strikes have killed so many leaders in Iran, there is a new regime in place. Let's watch.
It's a new group of people who've seen the full capability of the United States military and has a new calculus about what it means to negotiate with us, hence why they came to the table wanting a ceasefire and the shooting to stop. So this new regime, which the regime has been changed, has a different interaction with the U.S.
Look, you know that part of the world well, Admiral Miller. What does it mean when our Secretary of War says there's a new group of people?
Well, this new group of people are the same people that rounded up women and children yesterday to go stand on bridges and buy power plants. And so I don't know that the regime folks that have been replaced are if we have people that are any better in place now or that are any more trustworthy than what we've previously seen from the regime.
The good side of all of this is that, as you've pointed out, I mean, we are in that ceasefire moment. Real quickly, how do you see this playing out if, in fact, what we saw overnight and continuing to see today continues from Iran?
All lies.
Well, I don't think the ceasefire continues very long if things continue as they have since the ceasefire announcement was made. But I think long term, what we want to be able to make sure we do, and Iran's got an opportunity here to take a breath, take a step back, to let shipping in and out of the Strait of Hormuz to stop attacking the GCC nations and to prove that it's willing and able to negotiate in good faith. I haven't seen that yet, and until we see that, I have very little confidence that this ceasefire will hold or that it'll lead to a permanent settlement.
Well, and military talk, stay ready so you don't have to get ready is what we'll continue to do, it sounds like, from you.
There you go.
Admiral, thank you very much. Good to see you. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now.
All right, welcome to the show, y'all. Hope everybody out there is having a great day. It is Wednesday, April 8th right now, and boy, oh boy, do I have an important show for you. So in just a second, Trump basically surrendered. It was a complete and total Iranian victory, and he agreed to all of their demands in these negotiations. But as you're soon about to see, immediately the so-called ceasefire fell apart. It turns out it was a fake ceasefire all along, and Israel could not wait to immediately violate it. And then the U.S. as well got in on the fun and also violated it. So we'll talk about that. We also have new reporting from the New York Times, and Trump was definitively dog-walked by Netanyahu in these devastating secret leaks about what exactly led to this war. We also have Democrats erupting on Trump, calling him genocidal, saying invoke the 25th Amendment, remove him immediately. That number keeps climbing, not by the day, by the minute. More and more Democrats keep calling for him to immediately be taken out of power. Yeah. We'll dive into that as well. We also have some military officials openly rebelling against the Secretary of War Crimes, Pete Kegsbreath, to his face. And that's something that's incredible to see. So you guys know the deal, man. Everybody do me a big favor. Subscribe to the channel. Click that bell icon. That helps big time. You could also support the show on Patreon. Remember, y'all, this is real independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser. I've never done an ad read. I never will. But you guys support the show from the ground up, $2 a month at a time, $5 a month at a time, and it goes a very, very long way. So thank you to all of you who support this show, whether it's through Patreon or tipping with the thanks button on YouTube or signing up for Crystal Kyle and Friends. By the way, we have a great episode dropping this week. And, of course, go sub to the Corn's World YouTube channel where we do live Kyle and Corn episodes every Monday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. So, as you all know, the other day, Trump came out and said the most casually genocidal shit I think we've ever seen from a U.S. president. Casual. He said there was going to be, total civilizational annihilation. He was going to wipe out a civilization and make a civilization die. Absolutely horrifying stuff. I would go as far as to say that just threatening those things is a crime. Like, if you directly threaten violence against an individual, you go to prison. And you go to prison because that's not protected by the First Amendment. Direct threats of violence, terroristic threats, are not protected by the First Amendment. Here's a guy who did it for an entire civilization, a country of over 90 million people. So that alone, in my opinion, is a crime. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And then what ended up happening is, and I'll walk you through this here, as we got closer to the deadline, Trump found a way to taco but it all blew up in his face. So let me walk you through it here. Okay, so let's start with this. After Trump issues that dire threat, take a look at this. Footage shows Iranian regime supporters, including babies and children, forming a human chain in front of the Kazarun combined cycle power plant. So look at this. They're all standing around this power plant. They also did this on a bunch of different bridges as well, effectively trying to protect the critical infrastructure. Now, you have some people who are saying, well, this is like, how dare they do this? And this is the Iranian regime being incredibly evil and like using their own people as human shields and pawns. To which my response is, but it's a massive war crime to attack power plants and bridges anyway. Those shouldn't be on the list of targets anyway. Yeah. That is wildly illegal and absolutely insane. So really, you're telling on yourself if you act like, oh, wait, you're not allowed to do this. You can't do this. How dare you fucking play unfair by trying to protect your critical civilian infrastructure. I hate to tell you, that's not playing unfair. Okay, let's continue. We also have this. Trump responded to that and said, it would be, quote, totally illegal for Iran to use civilians as human shields around power plants. They're not allowed to do that. That's a direct quote. They're not allowed to do that. I'm done, bro. Like, I am so done. The people who bombed little girls' elementary schools and hospitals and bridges and steel plants and crazy, petrochemical facilities and pharmaceutical companies and every single kind, oil depots, every single kind of civilian infrastructure you can imagine, going, yeah, wait a second, you're not playing by the rules. Oh, Iran's not playing by the rules? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Just absolutely unbelievable. The nerve of these people.
They're playing by your rules.
Now, immediately after Trump did the threat to the entire civilization, they were continuing with strikes. They even hit Karg Island in that time again. Karg Island being the place where like 90% of Iran's oil goes through when they export it. So they were doing that as he was threatening something above and beyond. That's why people were speculating. Is it nuclear weapons? Is it a MOAB? Is it thermobaric bombs? Is it desalination plants, right? But immediately after he threatened that, here we have a JDAM airstrike hitting a bridge west of Tehran with several civilian vehicles passing underneath and being basically impacted by this. Watch this. This is a crazy video here. So driving, boom.
Shit.
Jesus Christ. That shit is crazy, bro.
Shit.
That shit is absolutely crazy. Okay, NBC News says Iran's hackers are actively breaking into industrial control systems in the U.S. Multiple federal agencies warn in an ongoing attempt to disrupt American infrastructure. So they're having to come up with clever, creative, asymmetrical ways to basically get back at the U.S. and Israel, or as we call them, the axis of Epstein. Okay, U.S.-Israeli airstrikes reported on Iraq's aluminum plant and the Fajr petrochemical complex in Mashhad. So again, this was going on right after Trump threatened to destroy the entire civilization. Okay, then we get this. About an hour before the deadline, or hour and a half before Trump's deadline of total civilizational annihilation, Trump comes out and says this. Based on conversations with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir of Pakistan, and wherein they requested that I hold off the destructive force being sent tonight to Iran, and subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. By the way, notice the phrasing, double-sided ceasefire. That implies that the U.S. and Israel, normally when they do a quote-unquote ceasefire, they allow themselves to keep attacking and say the other side can't keep attacking. They are fucking telling on themselves yet again. All right, he continues. The reason for doing so is that we have already met and exceeded all military objectives and are very far along with a definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. Keep that in mind, by the way. Almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the U.S. and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow that agreement to be finalized and consummated. On behalf of the U.S. of America, as president, and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to have this long-term problem close to a resolution. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So he comes out and says this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a complete and total Iranian victory. This is Trump basically surrendering here.
You can't really
That's what he's doing.
Won.
So what are those 10 points in this deal? Okay?
Used a bunch of bombs.
Guarantee that Iran will not be attacked again. Permanent end to the war, not just a ceasefire. End to Israeli strikes in Lebanon, so you can't go after Hezbollah anymore, and you can't do the genocide in Lebanon anymore. Lifting all U.S. sanctions on Iran, all of them, end to all regional fighting against Iranian allies. Iran would reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Iran would impose a $2 million fee per ship transiting Hormuz. So they get to control the strait and tax us, right? Tax everybody. Iran would split these fees with Oman. Iran would establish rules for safe passage through Hormuz. They're charging like $1 per barrel, which would raise them about $7.3 billion per year, okay? And Iran would use Hormuz fees for reconstruction instead of reparations. So this is the 10-point plan. This is complete and utter Iranian victory. This is the unipolar world is over. The U.S. doesn't guarantee maritime trade anymore. They control their own strait. They tax people as they wish. They also, massive blow to the dollar being the world reserve currency and the petrodollar because they want to allow trade, but in Chinese yuan. Complete and utter Iranian victory. There's no other way to read this. There's absolutely no other way to read this. So what ended up happening here, my guess is, remember that thing where they said, we saved one of our soldiers who was behind enemy lines? As I told you, and I think everybody kind of agrees to this now, it's kind of the consensus among people who follow this stuff. It wasn't a rescue mission.
Correct.
That was a total cover story. It was a lie.
Correct.
What Trump tried to do is order the raid for the 14-year-old boy dream of seizing the uranium, right? They tried to do that. They failed to do that. They made up a cover story about how, no, we were in there with all these planes and all these soldiers simply to save the other soldier, right? And so since that failed, Trump wanted to declare victory on Easter Sunday and wrap this bitch up. But since that failed, then afterwards he goes, well, what the fuck am I going to do now? I don't want to be stuck in this endless forever war, which is what Israel wants, by the way. They want it to be an endless forever war because they want Iran to be a failed state. But Trump doesn't want that because he sees his poll numbers dropping. So he goes, oh, shit, what the fuck do I do now? So what he settled on is, I'm going to make a massive, colossal, civilizational, nuclear-type threat, right? And then, right before I'm supposed to deliver on that, I'm going to say, oh, they just agreed to this 10-point plan that was just released because they're so scared of my threat. And so I agree to it. That's what he did. Now, by the way, this plan was available before he even made the threat. They have been floating this plan for an extended period of time. I don't know if it's been a week or more, but this has been out there where they say, hey, here are our terms. If you want us to open the Strait of Hormuz, if you want us to end this war, here are our terms. This has been out there. But Trump did the nuclear threat and then afterwards goes, oh, yeah, no, here's a new 10-point peace plan that they're floating because they were so scared of me. And yes, we're going to accept that deal and then we'll work on the finer points later. So he's trying to cover his ass and basically backdate that deal or pretend like that. Well, the deal isn't old. It's actually brand new. Right. So they're so scared that they floated these things that we agreed to. The other thing he's doing is he's using a different statement by the foreign minister, which was much kinder in tone to make it seem like, oh, Iran is conceding a lot here. Yeah. Whereas there's a different statement from the Iranian government, which is fucking tap dancing on the grave of MAGA and acting like the U.S. has been defeated. This is a humiliation. CNN ran that statement where Iran's basically gloating, and Trump is threatening to sue CNN for running that and going, well, how dare you? How dare you? You're lying. It's this other thing. It's this other statement, which is much more kind-hearted and even-toned that is their real statement. It's not. That's a lie. It's a lie. That's what the foreign minister said, but it also is true that the gloating statement is from Iran. So complete and utter Iranian victory. But hold on, because of course, as you probably expect, and as I predicted, it immediately took a turn for the worse. Okay, Iran had already presented a 10-point plan, says Prem Thakur, as I told you. Then Trump wakes up today and threatens to blow up Iran's whole civilization if they don't bend. And then just an hour before his deadline, he announces a ceasefire, citing Iran's workable 10-point plan. Exactly as I laid it out for you. Okay, here's that statement from the Iran Supreme National Security Council. They say this: the enemy in its unfair, illegal, and criminal war against the Iranian nation, totally true, by the way, just factual, has suffered an undeniable, historic, and crushing defeat. Thanks to the pure and sacred blood of the martyred leader of the Islamic Revolution, Grand Ayatollah Imam Khomeini, may God bless him, the measures of the supreme leader of the Islamic Revolution and Commander-in-Chief, Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Mojtaba Khomeini, may God protect him, and the efforts and bravery of the Islamic fighters on the fronts, especially the historic, lasting, and heroic presence of you dear people on the scene from the very first days of the war, Iran has achieved a great victory and forced the criminal America to accept his 10-point plan. In this plan, America fundamentally commits to guaranteeing non-aggression, continuing Iran's control of the Strait of Hormuz, accepting enrichment, lifting all primary and secondary sanctions, ending all Security Council and Board of Governor resolutions, paying compensation to Iran, withdrawing U.S. combat forces from the region, and stopping the war on all fronts, including against the heroic Islamic resistance of Lebanon. We congratulate all the people of Iran on this victory and emphasize that until the details of this victory are finalized, there is still a need for the perseverance and prudence of officials and the preservation of unity and solidarity among the Iranian people. So we also, in this deal, we would have to pay them reparations and close all of our bases in the Middle East. A complete and utter end to U.S. imperialism and hegemony in the region. That's what this is. So Trump flipped out when CNN ran this and said, that's not the deal. What are you talking about? It's bullshit. And I told you he was either going to lie about the contents of the deal that he just agreed to, or this was just going to be a complete and utter fake ceasefire, and they were immediately going to go back to shooting anyway. And both of those fucking things happened instantly. Here's Trump's quote-unquote deal for the low cost of 13 U.S. lives, hundreds wounded, thousands of dead Iranians, soaring gas prices, damage to NATO, decimation of U.S. influence, and threats of genocide. And this guy says Iran might reopen the strait, which was already open before the war. By the way, spoiler alert, they actually haven't reopened the strait because the deal has already been massively violated. Trump threatens genocide of 90 million. Markets tank. 8 billion people freak out. GOP revolts. 55 lawmakers call for the 25th Amendment. It's actually over 80 now. White House writes 2-week delay post for the Pakistan Prime Minister. Market recovers 1 hour before close. Trump accepts his own 2-week delay. That's the other thing is the Pakistan Prime Minister who led the calls for negotiations. It wasn't him. It was the U.S. government wrote him a draft of a thing to post, and then he posted it. Total U.S. puppet shit. And they were lying, pretending oh yeah, the Pakistan initiated it and we're agreeing to it. No, it was Trump basically floating his own fucking thing, right? They're so dishonest. They're so pathologically dishonest. So when the ceasefire was announced, a journalist with Israel's Channel 12, quote, Israel doesn't like this plan to say the least, but Trump calls the shots. Turns out they actively were fuck this, we're going to sabotage this shit. Breaking, Israel says Iran fired missiles on his territory following Trump's ceasefire post. That's what Israel says. Now, see no evidence of that whatsoever is point number one. Point number two, they were claiming this literally minutes after the ceasefire. Trump shitted out the ceasefire announcement on fucking Lie Social. So it's very possible these things were scheduled to launch beforehand, if indeed there was anything that launched. But Israel claimed, they violated it. They violated it immediately 30 seconds after Trump announced it. This is what Israel says. Okay? Ready? Drop site says, Israel is continuing to strike Iran despite the White House saying it had agreed to a 2-week ceasefire, an Israeli military official told the Associated Press. The contradiction suggests the ceasefire is not yet in effect on the ground, echoing earlier breakdowns in June before Trump publicly lashed out at both sides. Iran has also continued attacks on Israel, Al Jazeera reported. So now, this was roughly an hour after the post, the attacks were escalating. Then we get this. I wake up this morning, breaking, Israel bombs an ambulance in Lebanon as it rejects U.S. brokered ceasefire terms. They bombed an ambulance. By the way, the Prime Minister, Netanyahu, had the nerve to come out and say, we totally accept the terms of the ceasefire deal, except not in Lebanon. Okay, but that's in the fucking deal. I accept it, but also I don't accept it. No, fuck you. But they're trying to sabotage. Of course they're trying to sabotage it on purpose. But by the way, it's also Trump is also sabotaging his own deal, as you'll see in a second. Because they're liars. This is what happens when you have a government that doesn't believe in truth, doesn't believe in acting honorably and being good to your word. Ready? Breaking. Israel launched 100 strikes across Lebanon in 10 minutes Wednesday afternoon, targeting Beirut, the south, and the Bekaa Valley. Hours after a ceasefire was announced and declared effective immediately by Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Sounds of ambulances filled the streets of Beirut from 3 p.m. local time. And then they go on here. 100 strikes. It is literally the biggest attack since the beginning of this war, happening after the so-called ceasefire, launched by the Axis of Epstein. They bombed a funeral in Lebanon. Israel bombed a funeral in Lebanon at a cemetery. Now everyone is dead. These people are the most immoral people I've ever seen. This is demonic shit. All they want is death and gore and violence. All they want is to ruin people's lives, destroy the country, steal the territory. It's absolutely... To do this immediately after the so-called ceasefire. All right, ready? Gets worse. In violation of the ceasefire, U.S. Israeli forces targeted the Lavon oil refinery on Lavon Island. At present, safety and firefighting teams are working to extinguish the flames and secure the area. So they're also continuing to attack not just Lebanon, also Iran. So let's review here. Iran's nuclear deal with Obama, the Strait of Hormuz was open and free. Iran limited their uranium enrichment. Iran agreed to make no nuclear weapons. Iran allowed international inspectors to ensure compliance, and inspectors confirmed Iran's full compliance. That's Obama's deal. Trump's fake deal, ready? Strait of Hormuz closed, only open for $2 million per ship, and now it's actually close. They're not even allowing that anymore. Iran makes no guarantee of limit on uranium enrichment. Iran makes no guarantee of nuclear weapons. Iran makes no guarantee to allow international inspectors. So Trump just fucking fucked this thing
Playing
87
5D
ways to
chess.
Sunday. So when Trump announced the ceasefire, a bunch of MAGA idiots were out there like, see, art of the deal. All you idiots who thought he was going to nuke, you were dead wrong. Again, like swatting aside the idea that just the threat itself is disgusting. Also, by the way, that puts Americans in danger too.
Yeah.
Trump threatening to wipe out an entire civilization.
Yeah, it does.
Under international
It puts
law,
people on the
Iran
bases.
would be it would be legitimate for Iran to launch an attack directly against the U.S. in self-defense, since Trump said, "I'm going to wipe out your entire civilization."
It's true.
So the fact that people brush over just the fact him saying that is illegal and insane, right? But he announces the ceasefire. A bunch of MAGA idiots starts sucking his nuts from the back. And remember this meme? This puts everything in perspective. Trump makes a stupid decision. Something really bad happens. He convinces his followers the problem is now magically solved. He reverses his stupid decision. And then repeat that over and over and over and over and over. That's what it's like on this fucking endless roller coaster of depravity and insanity. B-52 bombers took off from the UK last night and then turned around a little while into their trip, which leads me to believe, yet again, there's some sort of market manipulation, war profiteering, insider stuff going on here.
They were halfway there.
Because, like, they're up there. It was obviously like a head fake. I guarantee you there's people making a tremendous amount of money betting on this shit. I have no doubt about it. And then at the same time, I should also point out, large U.S. Air Force airlift of tankers and military cargo flights continue into the Middle East tonight, despite the ceasefire, the so-called ceasefire. So it's almost like, yet again...
You see the bases?
They didn't mean a goddamn word of it. They didn't mean a fucking word of
2,
it.
3,
I really
4,
don't think people
5,
fully
6,
understand
7,
just how
8, 9,
cooked
10,
the
11,
U.S. is
12,
now.
15 bases.
Our word is less than garbage. Our word means absolutely fucking nothing. And like there are dire consequences to that. So
yeah, it's
just
not good.
wild. Just wild.
It's not
the
good,
deal
Chad.
that they put out there, it was basically Trump surrendering and giving Iran a total victory, right? But ultimately, as I thought, it was all fake anyway, and it all fell apart instantly, and we're right back to a scenario where the axis of Epstein is committing war crime after war crime after war crime. So we live in hell. We live in hell, and I sincerely don't really see a way out of this, and I have no idea how it gets better. So the war is going to spiral out of control. It's going to get worse and worse. The economy is going to absolutely implode. Everybody's going to deal with the terrible fallout, and all I can say is these people got to get out of there. Netanyahu's got to be out of there. He's got to get arrested for his genocide. Trump needs to be out of there. He's got to get arrested for his various war crimes. The whole regime's got to go down. Like, there's no hope of any of this coming to a good conclusion unless and until they are gonzo.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right.
Let's start with Iran. And just before the break, I had mentioned this. In 2003, and I'm sure you remember at least some of it, through a Swiss ambassador, this is in the wake of 9/11, Iran was very, very helpful. They were natural enemies with Al Qaeda. They were very, very helpful. There was candlelit vigils. The Iranian people were very supportive. And through a Swiss representative, they offered a comprehensive, it was like a grand bargain, comprehensive peace deal, which was limits on its nuclear program, cooperation against Al Qaeda, help with stabilizing Iraq. This was, in the run up to the war. They were willingness to accept a two-state solution for Israel. They were willing to sign on to the Arab League's Beirut peace plan. And what they wanted was essentially sanctions relief and security guarantees and normalization. And apparently, Larry Wilkerson, you remember him, he was Colin Powell's right-hand man, sort of did a big Reformation tour in the wake of the Bush years to make, to protect Powell's reputation and probably his own. Wrote extensively about this because he and Powell wanted to do this. And of course, Cheney and Rumsfeld said, we're not doing that because the neocons had very grander plans. And apparently the guy who Kamal Karazi was the diplomat who led that initiative on the Iranian side. He is the guy who just 2 days ago was targeted by either Israel or us. We killed his wife, and I think his son, and injured him. He was the former Iranian foreign minister, to make sure that he was not in a position to negotiate any type of peace. I mean, this is, it is psycho stuff. It's not, Bush and Cheney and et al., they had done very similar stuff, obviously walking away from a deal like this because they wanted to have this war at one point. But here we are again.
Absolutely. I mean, this is, I wake up every morning feeling like I'm, in another moment of deja vu. I mean, it's a different, after 9/11, look, there was nothing, I knew the minute that 9/11 happened, that there was going to be a war and that the United States was going to lash out and they were going to, it was just, and it was not an unnatural reaction to what had happened. I think the Iraq part of it was what really, galvanized the anti-war, people in the country and around the world, really, because that was completely ridiculous. But we knew there would be some kind of response to 9/11. So this time, of course, there's nothing, literally nothing that precipitated this particular thing other than Israel deciding that they wanted to, wield the final blow and continue their rampage through the Middle East. Now they're doing to Lebanon what they did to Gaza earlier. So, we decide, I guess, Trump, emerging from his triumph in Venezuela, figured that he was now king of the world and could do anything he wanted. So it is slightly different. But the fact is that when the United States government wants a war, which they wanted in 2002 and 2003, and which apparently Donald Trump wanted now, they just do it. And the people who are there to trying to do any kind of peace agreement, doing any kind of mediation, they just, they're either eliminated or they are marginalized or they are somehow taken out of the picture, despite all the paeans to, we're peace, we want peace. Trump, doing his Nobel Peace Prize tour. So, this is not a new thing. This is sort of what we've become, I think, in the 21st century. I think it's pretty much definitional. That we've been, hurtling toward rogue superpower status for some time, and here we are. And this particular one is just, it's so chaotic, so irrational, so completely, incoherent, that it's even more terrifying. Not that, the Iraq War and post 9/11 America wasn't terrifying, but this is something else again, because it's just done, it's so incredibly out of, completely without any form of strategy. The neocons, they were terrible, and they had a completely ridiculous, naive idea about we're going to spread democracy at the end of a gun. But there was at least some kind of thing you could argue against. This is making it just, what do you just say? Is that it's completely out of control. So, I just feel like the 21st century so far has just been one thing after another, all stemming from this same concept of America completely losing its bearings. And, now I think we're at the end, we're coming to the end of that particular, trajectory that we've been on for the last 26 years. And this is a very, very dangerous moment. Very dangerous.
The assassination of the more peace-prone negotiators is a tactic that the Israelis have consistently used. So we talk about, what is happening in Lebanon, or just Trump, that they've seized just a ton of territory and have said, okay, if you're south of the Litani, you have to evacuate for a small period of time, but don't worry, you'll be able to come back. When has Israel claimed that before and never, and obviously reneged on that? It's an ethnic cleansing campaign. But in terms of the U.S. tactics of in wartime, Trump is bragging about bombing civilian infrastructure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm still very, I don't think that we should take these psychotic Christian nationalists at their word when they say they didn't mean to double tap the girls' school when it was available on Google Maps to say that this was a girls' school at this point. And Iran is now saying, oh, hey, you're going to target our civilian infrastructure. They're now threatening U.S. tech companies in the region in response to this and saying that they're going to bomb them there. Because all Iran can do is escalate. This is part of what is so scary about this moment. Yeah. They can't trust the Americans in negotiations because of these horrifically horrific tactics, and because in negotiations they've used that to lull them into a false sense of security and bomb them before. So what else is Iran going to do but escalate? And Trump is going to be roped into that because he doesn't want to look like he's losing. So this is where this is even scarier than I think people are grappling with right now.
I mean, I would add, the only thing I would add is that I think we've said, like, he's high on his own supply after Venezuela and he's being lobbied, but I really don't think we understand. I don't know if we'll ever know, but it's interesting that we have yet to see, and I imagine we'll see this, I don't know, it'll be 3 years or 5 years or 10 years down the road. We will start to read about how people around him were like, why is he doing this?
Yeah.
And because it doesn't make any sense unless, I mean, to me, the only way to make sense of it, because he had promised, Miriam Adelson, that he would be okay with annexing the West Bank, and certainly they've gone forward with that project.
Absolutely.
But attacking Iran, I don't think anybody paid for, at least that we saw prior to the election. And I can't help but think that there is he is making money off of this in some way. It may be the Saudis. There's certain Saudis right now are hurting, but it might be one of those short-term pain for long-term gain. When oil is at $120 a barrel, Saudi Arabia is still selling some oil, and it becomes economically sensible to start building pipelines.
Well, we're starting to hear that, aren't we? We're starting to hear this pipeline thing, which that came as a bit of a surprise to me. I'm thinking, really? Okay. Well, that kind of makes sense. And the crisis around the Strait of Hormuz and all that kind of does lend itself to an idea that maybe this is part of the calculation. And we have heard that MBS has been talking to has been pushing Trump to continue the war with Iran, and they've got all the local American hawks are in his ear as well, pushing that. And I would not be surprised at all. I mean, just look at the relationship between the Trump family and the Saudis. And Qatar and UAE. I mean, this is heavy. Yes, billions invested. Personally.
Yeah. And so I don't know. We may never know. It doesn't really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's probably, a half a dozen reasons why we're going in, and certainly half a dozen different parties who are pushing for it. We know the Israelis are, this has been a lifelong dream for Netanyahu, and he's been pushing for it as well. And I imagine it's a combination of, like, some people are incentivizing Trump to do this, and others are saying it's going great. Don't worry, we'll be able to do this. And understand that once you get past a certain point, the rate of acceleration in terms of falling into this war increases.
But also just look at who is on the outs with Trump now, and I think it says everything. Like, Tulsi Gabbard is rumored to be the next person he's getting rid of all the women. Kristi Noem, these bitches, Pam Bondi, now Tulsi.
Laura has a list that she wants me to get rid of, and they just happen to be women.
But I
they're all skanks.
I really, I think that Hegseth he's proving a loyal soldier for Trump's aims. I think that Marco Rubio is as hawkish as it gets, and these are the people that he's listening to right now. And he's tweeting out, tune into Mark Levin tonight. He's listening to like Mark Levin. I mean, who is as Zionist hawkish as it gets. So he's tired of hearing from like on Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson criticizing this war stuff. He's into boomer Fox News traditional neocon territory. That's where he's at right now. And that's where he always was going to end up if you had two brain cells to rub together.
Of course. It's one of the most annoying things about this. You know, I mean, I'm trying very hard not to, get too heavily into the I told you so's. But for the people who, on the MAGA side who are, well, he's not going to do any forever wars. I'm just going, have you met Donald Trump? Do you have any sense of what human psychology is? This man is a narcissistic megalomaniac who, of course, given the chance, is going to take military action when it is, when he gets the chance to do it and thinks that there's no ramifications. He's not running again, and I think that right now he's been saying some things, kind of getting, sort of recognizing that fact. Now, maybe he'll change his mind. But for the moment, he's kind of said a few things like, well, there's the rules, and I'm sorry, it's bad rule, but it is. And I think this is legacy building for him. This is where he is now. And I think being a great conqueror has been, implanted in his mind as being a big part of his legacy now. And so, it doesn't really take much to get this guy on. And all these people who thought that he was some kind of a peacenik, it's taking everything in me not to throw this back in their face as, the Tucker Carlsons and Megyn Kelly's go, what? War? We didn't sign on for that. I'm going, give me a break.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
Give me a break. Oh, man, he looks young without a beard.
We are back, and we are joined now by Seamus Malakausali, freelance journalist, host of Turbulence podcast, and publisher of his newsletter at SeamusMalakausali.com. Seamus, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So my first burning question here, is this temporary 2-week ceasefire just another way for the U.S. and Israel to deceive Iran?
I think it is. I had immediate deep suspicions once.
Yeah, you hate to see it.
Are you trying to sneak antibiotics into me because you got STDs from Russian hookers? That's how smart they are. So let me think of what else I can say. It's kind of distracting up here. Oh, yeah. Not that. I don't want to get in trouble. What's to get in trouble? No. I can do it. You can do it. Thank you.
The only thing coming out of CPAC this year is a lot of the Groypers saying, like, we're done with the Republican Party and only B-listers, D-listers went to CPAC this year.
Yeah.
Well,
Trump didn't go. Trump was at the Saudi.
Everybody sort of
conference.
ignored
It was
CPAC.
an ESG conference, literally ESG, which DeSantis supposedly outlawed. But
this is, I mean, people have to understand it must be so depressing at CPAC because they realize, like, for the true believers, they realize they were lied to.
Right.
For the non-true believers, they realize, like, none of this stuff is working to the extent that, like, we thought that once there was no immigrants, the country would be so much better.
It reminds me of how last summer we talked about going, or 2 summers ago, talked about going to the DNC, and we were like, no.
Yeah.
It's so depressing. No.
But the flip side of that is when so few people are going and few people are interested in, it opens up doors for some of your faves. I give you Rob Schneider at the Real America's Voice stage.
I think that's just their Chiron, and they just have a camera here. But oh yeah, no, you're right. I didn't see that behind.
Here it
Okay,
is.
here we go.
Psyching himself up. Here he comes.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Oh, so they got a new woman on The View. Have you heard? Jimmy Kimmel is going to join the cast. How are you? Thank you so much. The ladies of The View. I appreciate it. Well, I'll tell you, something happened. I was able to get lunch. I just got off the plane from Europe, and we went out to a place here in town in Dallas. And the waiter was a little nervous. And I said to him, and he's a Mexican guy. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Mr. Snyder, I'm just a little nervous because I am not here legally. And I'm afraid that ICE is going to take me back to Mexico." And I felt like, wow, that's awful. Because these are the people that we want in this country. People are working really hard. Then he completely screwed up my lunch, and I was like, get this guy out of here. You can't screw up lunch. That's the most important meal of the day.
Oh, Jesus. That was, hold on for a second.
What I like is it was such a long way to get there. That's how you want to write.
That's right. You really want premise to constitute 98% of the joke, particularly when that 2% is virtually no payoff. Yeah. It really is almost just like, I'm throwing away the line.
What do you mean no payoff? I had not heard about it being the most important meal of the day.
Hey, better get out of here.
Famously the thing they say about lunch.
Yeah. You better get out of here.
So,
I mean, this guy, honestly,
are we going to remark on the coat?
Yeah, we should paint a picture.
My friend told me
honestly
that you
think
can tell he doesn't have black friends because his hat doesn't match his suit at all.
The pork pie hat is completely out of line with the
Yes. Deuce Bigelow and the Technicolor Dreamcoat.
But the energy he's bringing to this, was this done at 4 a.m.?
This has noon energy to me.
Oh, totally.
It has noon energy.
Well, that's why everybody was so teed into lunch. I mean, he could have said breakfast.
Maybe he messed up.
Yeah. Why not say breakfast? It would. I mean,
but he's
how much funny would it have gotten though?
He's trying.
I don't think that was the problem.
Here's why you don't say breakfast is because part of this is about the message, not just the jokes.
Right.
And he feels strongly about lunch being the most important meal of the day, and he's trying to push that. That's one of his things that he's doing.
Well, I mean, keep politics out of comedy, please.
Well, to a Hollywood elite like this, lunch is probably breakfast to him,
Oh, yeah. No, he rolls out of bed.
Out of a plane from Europe, straight into lunch.
A working man comedy.
My favorite, my favorite comedy now is Instagram. Mexican guys crying. Have you seen that? It's pretty funny. Please, El Presidente Trump, don't take my mother-in-law back to Mexico. She's not here legally, please. Her name is Maria Reyes Gonzalez. She lives at 311 Nelson Avenue. She's 4'11", 293 pounds. She's there right now. I'll help you pack her shit.
Nailed it with the mother-in-law joke. Oh my God! You know what though? You got to appreciate the guy knows his audience.
Yeah, a fat mother-in-law joke.
But shrouded in anti-Mexican joke.
Well, he combined the two themes of the first two jokes: the view, don't we hate women that are postmenopausal, and two, the accent. So now it's both racism and misogyny.
Now get ready for a change of pace.
All right, do we get to see the rest of because this is the shot that they're sort of streaming it on. I want the shot that shows that there's 15 people there.
The trailing off at the punchline is so funny.
So we're gonna skip a little bit. We're gonna skip a little bit in ahead. He does some anti.
Well, wait a second. If you skip ahead, are we gonna get like the mood of what's going on? Don't we need to? Don't we feel like we need the energy? Like, I mean, he's crafted this set, and you're just skipping around.
No, I think you can kind of guess what he says about Somalis and that they don't send their best. That's the minute we're gonna skip here until we see the crowd show.
Okay, but I mean,
I'll give you a taste
you're just
of it.
not. You're ruining his art.
I know
Go
it's
ahead.
craft,
Go ahead,
but
Matt.
okay.
You don't get it.
Yeah.
They can just come over here, marry their brother, and then open up a Leering Center, and the next thing you know...
He's pointing at Brace Belden there. I just want to point out who will appear in a second.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
From True Anonymous, who
was
apparently Schneider does not realize is not a sincere Rob Schneider super fan.
He's like snapping his fingers.
That's incredible.
Oh my God, Schneider's so happy he's got somebody.
Leering Center.
Look at this guy. Is totally
this guy
into
gets it.
This guy totally gets it. We're on the same wavelength, buddy. You got it.
No, it's incredible. How rich is this country where Somalians could be stealing billions of dollars from us and we don't even notice? How incredible is that? Can you imagine you can have $100,000 in your pocket and it just goes missing?
Oh, Brace is
nodding.
In the
He's nodding. Yeah, put the cursor over him so that people see it right there. Yeah, he's nodding. That's fantastic. Right there.
Standing at attention. I'm in church.
Yeah.
I'm in church right now.
His hands folded across.
I'm witnessing a real sermon.
Imagine you can have $100,000 in your pocket and it just goes missing. And you go, oh, I don't know, I got another $100,000 over here. This is going to sound terrible, maybe a little racist.
This is going to sound
So I
racist.
won't say it because you guys are all filming this. But let me see. I had some points. I just got back from Hungary, where the Hungarian Donald Trump, Viktor Orban, is there. He's a great guy, and it's an amazing free country.
He's snapping his fingers.
And it doesn't have the what the rest of Western Europe has. They've managed to keep that country free.
Can you pause it? I'm sorry.
He was he on tour with Dave Rubin?
So,
pause it. Was he on tour with Dave Rubin? Because he's saying the exact same thing that we saw Dave Rubin say.
Also, does he have any fear of flying and he takes a Klonopin every time he flies?
This
he
is
zooted.
I honestly am like interested in who funded that trip to Hungary
That's
for a
actually
bunch
the
of
point.
right-wing influencers.
That's the exact point I made is, did you pay for that with your own money?
Yeah, I
Go to
mean,
Hungary?
No, he just coincidentally went on the same trip as Dave Rubin.
doesn't everyone want a vacation in Hungary? And everyone I talk to is always like, Eastern Europe is where it's at.
It's a comics retreat.
I also just want to say something like, look.
In March?
Rob Schneider is not 87 years old. I just want to make that clear. He is
62. I have his Wikipedia
3
open.
years older than me. So this is where I think it really starts to go downhill for me.
He may not be
This is
80, but his
any-
material is.
Yeah, exactly. It's close to 90. I mean, the mother-in-law jokes. Like
the
if
Jeff
I had
Parr
done a
shows?
mother-in-law joke when I first started comedy, which was 35 years ago, people have been like, "Dude, are you serious?"
Yeah. Is this ironic? We'll watch a little bit more of his,
Even Don Rickles 35 years ago was not doing his mother-in-law jokes.
his sincere point about Orban here, and then we can skip a little bit ahead to his Bill Gates bit.
It maintains that way. So, and I did that, and I wrote some notes down. What else here?
Oh, that's a good sign.
The Chinese Bible that the government of China puts in, you know, the famous biblical quote of Jesus when he goes, they're about to stone this woman. And Jesus says,
He's hyping himself up.
those who have committed no sin cast the first stone. And so they all drop their stones. In the Chinese communist version, after Jesus says, "Ye who has not sinned, cast the first stone." After that, in the Chinese version, Jesus kills her himself. It's incredible.
Oh man, he's medicated.
So
yeah,
I have no idea what's going on.
This is not
like that's not beta blockers. We're talking.
Incidentally,
something else.
You will notice there are people who are starting to leave. They have got front row seats, or standing, and they are starting to like wander.
How did Rob Schneider not do a Chinese voice there? It's like a mile away.
Also, man, the lights are on bright. Like it is lit like a gymnasium in high school.
Oh, this next bit is very funny.
The whole purpose of my jacket.
All right, here he goes. He's a celebrity here.
Is that Nick Shirley over there? Nick! That is. Is that him? He's not? Oh, it's Alex Stein. Okay. I can't see without my glasses. But yeah, so that's...
He's heavily medicated.
What else I wanted to tell you? Oh, Bill Gates, it came out that Jeffrey Epstein said in those papers that he's a very good source, by the way. I think a very believable source, Jeffrey Epstein. That Bill Gates apparently got STDs from Russian hookers too. Yeah, the guy yells it over there. And then he tried to get Jeffrey Epstein to get him some antibiotics so he could sneak them into his wife. Now that's terrible, but at least he had a plan. A lot of guys don't even have a plan.
Sympathetic.
A lot of guys will go, I don't know how you got it. You know, maybe at Pilates. They never clean those things down over there, you know.
His eyes
those
won't
yoga
open.
pants, viruses can go right up your hoo-hoo. You never know.
Ha ha.
Your what?
Jesus, I feel like we're about watching a guy about to have a stroke. Honestly, like, what is stopping people from going like, we got to get up there? Are you okay, Rob?
I mean, was he still?
He looks like he's about to have a stroke, doesn't he?
He looks like he's about to fall asleep. His eyelids are so heavy.
You know, a lot of guys are just, I'm sorry. I don't. It feels so good.
Well, he really heats up in the last.
The worst set I've ever seen in my life. I did open mics in laundromats 15 years ago.
It's really, honestly, feels like, you know, like you go like an open mic, and there's maybe somebody up there who's like literally about to faint.
Yeah, in trouble.
And people don't fully grasp what's going on, and it's like somebody's pumped gas into the room where everybody's just sort of
100%.
I've never seen anything like this where I got that feeling from video. Like he's literally traveling through space and time and making it awkward outside of the TV.
But women are too smart for that kind of stuff, guys. Women will never fall for that. No matter how, you know, how clever you are. Honey, I just made you a new smoothie.
Oh my God.
Are you trying to sneak antibiotics into me because you got STDs from Russian hookers? That's how smart they are. So let me think of what else I can say. It's kind of distracting up here. Oh, yeah. Not that.
Wow.
I don't want to get in trouble.
This is the worst I've ever seen in my life.
This is great.
All right. What's it in trouble? No. I can do it. You can do it. Thank you. Well, are we going to have...
do the you can do it! Do the you can do it!
And we're going to...
So in 20 seconds, someone does it again, and he does it again.
Oh my God. Oh my God. He literally was like, it's not worth it to do this. Whatever. He gave up.
You can do it.
Here, and we're gonna have a little talk. And we're gonna ask some questions for people, have a little discussion. You want to do that now? Is Andrew here? Are we gonna do that, or are we gonna do that after?
After what?
We'll do it after. So what's gonna happen now?
No, you're set.
Music next. You can do it. I already did it. Anyway, so let me see if I have something that I wanted to tell you. That was important. Oh, I'm going to come back up here with a couple of guys, and we'll go over some of the stuff that's happening.
Do over?
In the country, and what we need to work on.
Put a rail and Adderall, come back.
Next. So who's going to come up and do some? Who is it?
This is the closer.
Who am I introducing next? John Mellis? What's that? All right, I'm going to sing for you. So who's... I will. You guys come up here. We're going to have music, and then I'm going to come back up. And that's what the rumor I just heard. And then, so you guys stick around for a little bit, and I'll come back up, and we'll do some more.
Promise.
Thank you so much. John Mellis is coming up now. Hey, good to see you.
What was that, 50 grand he just made?
He tapped out with
Holy
5
shit.
minutes. That was a 6-minute long clip, and I don't know if he made it to 5.
I don't know. He definitely did not do 5 minutes.
He didn't want to burn any of his good stuff.
Let's see what else I have to tell you guys about what's going on in this country.
That might be the loosest 5 I've ever seen.
But what else is going on?
What can I tell you? Wow. There's a guy who feels like he had a little bit of regret.
You can do it.
I don't understand his grievance with the world because he should be kissing Adam Sandler's ring and
100%.
saying thank you
Literally.
every day for how little talent he has and how much
Yes.
opportunity he got.
Exactly.
Doing the copy.
He should be the happiest man alive.
I mean, how
Yeah.
many of those, like
Honestly.
those grown-ups movies must have made millions and millions? I mean,
Unbelievable. How does he feel like a victim? I don't understand it.
do it all night long. I was trying to find that video. Do you remember on Fox News, it was Glenn Beck where that guy passed out on air? Ugh, when Glenn Beck was still on Fox News, he goes,
Oh,
I'm passing
yeah.
out. I'm passed out.
I
No.
don't.
Okay. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, it does.
Meanwhile, I don't know. That was. I almost feel sad now.
Oh, not me.
Oh, yeah, not me either.
Endorphins are fucking flowing.
He's a fucking
feel
fucking
great.
loser. He just has secondhand embarrassment because he's actually a comedian and he knows how bad that is, how bad he bombed. He's such a loser, though. Rob
There's
Schneider.
nothing I love more than watching somebody eat it.
That was worse. I mean, you guys had hyped
But
it
I
up
don't even
and-
think he was aware
Yeah.
that he ate it. That's the thing. I don't think he had
Yeah,
any
Did you know where
idea.
he was?
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for
absolutely
about
no
2.5
idea he
hours.
did that.
We even take phone calls.
The reality is nobody thinks this was a big victory.
The Iranian people are arguably worse off than they were before, and it's all based on Bibi Netanyahu's special intelligence, which cost at least 15 American lives, the fracturing of the Trump coalition, probably at least the next 2 elections for Republicans, so great job.
Let's
Israelis have been
go.
slaughtering the people of Lebanon all morning, carpet bombing cities just out of rage.
First thing that President Trump has to do in order to make sure this lasts is actually restrain the Israelis, take away key components of the military aid that we give them.
Would restrain our ally, who, by the way, just helped us achieve one of the greatest military victories of the modern era. We would restrain them instead of trying to use the threat of continued belligerence from them to extract more punitive terms from the Iranians is silly.
The furore about President Trump's vow to end Iranian civilization was not about a fear he was about to do that or a hope that he would. It was about the foundational idea that the United States is a bulwark against exactly the kind of atrocities he foreshadowed. If the US is capable and willing to eradicate an entire population, how does it have the moral authority to be a global arbiter of right and wrong? But Donald Trump doesn't seem interested in that. Clearly, he sees the US as a muscular superpower which can throw its weight around to get what it wants. And to be clear, many people support him about that. So amid the shrieking noise and spin about the 11th hour ceasefire agreement, it's worth asking a simple question. Did the US get what it wants? Well, the Strait of Hormuz is open, just as it was before the war began. But nobody is in any doubt about the fact that Iran controls it. In fact, some versions of the text refer to guaranteeing Iran's dominance. The Iranian regime is wounded and weakened, but there's no doubt that it's the same regime. Several branches have been hacked off, but the trunk and the roots remain. Many of Iran's military targets have been destroyed, but Iran still has its uranium, its ballistic missiles, and its proxies across the region. The Iranian plan, which Trump now calls a workable basis for talks, includes reparations for the damage caused, the lifting of all sanctions, and the release of Iranian funds seized by the United States. It's a multi-billion-dollar windfall. What does he think they'll do with it? And on the question of cost, the US has now spent more than $30 billion on the war so far. 15 US soldiers are dead. Thousands of Iranian civilians are dead. Trump's approval ratings are at a record low, and his base is at war with itself.
It's not a W, it's a big fat L,
which could handicap or even end his presidency. Yeah. We should all keep an open mind about what happens next. We should all be grateful for a pause in this war. But if this is what a historic victory looks like, well, Mr. President, I wouldn't be so sure to claim that. First tonight, I'm joined by Megyn Kelly, host of the Megyn Kelly Show. Megyn, what's been the point of it all?
You got to say the deal sounds very much like surrender on our part, which I'm in favor of. I mean, great. This needed to end. Ugly or any other way. It needed to end. It was folly to begin with. It was folly throughout. It remains folly. I'm sure Mark Levin and Lindsey Graham were feeling really, really good until the end part where we had to end it. And now they're very, very angry. Mark Levin was practically in tears on Fox News last night because we didn't see it through, I guess, with the nuclear bomb that we were going to drop on Iran. We didn't go in commando style and seize all the uranium. We allowed, according to the Israelis, according to the Iranians, that is, the war against Hezbollah to stop, which he wants seen through. He would love to see Lebanon completely bombed and to be made to look like Gaza. And there was really no point to going forward other than more death and destruction. The Iranians proved to be tough MFers, and they realized that they had something far more powerful than a nuclear bomb. They had control over the Strait of Hormuz.
They realized
and Trump was warned prior to getting involved in this conflict by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs that they were not likely to collapse easily and that they probably would maintain control of the strait and could cause a global economic panic. And he didn't listen. What he did with the Dan Cain warnings was rush to Truth Social, Trump did, saying, all Dan Cain knows how to do is win. And if I tell him to invade, he's going to win. Well, that's not really what happened. There was never any question we could decimate their Navy or their Air Force. Of course, no one would ever second guess the power of the U.S. military. It's pristine and it's impeccable and it's truly awe-striking. But these battles in the Middle East have been fought now for 20 plus years, and we continue to learn the same lesson over and over. It is not their overwhelming air power or their incredible navies that keep us mired in quagmires. It's their insurgencies. It's this disparate way of fighting that we don't know how to handle. We can't tamp down with the amazing power of an aircraft carrier, which, by the way, we had trouble getting anywhere close there after they figured out how to attack it. And, we've already learned this. Trump watched us learn it. And so what led Trump, at 79 years old, to sit in there in that Situation Room when Bibi Netanyahu was seated as an equal?
Yeah.
Trump didn't even sit at the head of the table. Trump sat at the side of the table, and Bibi was across from him as an equal in the American Situation Room. What led him to sit there and buy what that guy was selling hook, line, and sinker when every other president was able to see through that liar? What was it? Because he was told the next day by our own top advisors, from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs to the Secretary of State to the Vice President, that these are lies and that these objectives are not going to be attainable. Don't believe him. We might be able to wipe out the Ayatollah, not regime change, Ayatollah. And we might be able to decimate some portion of their missiles and their military. Okay, that's true. But the goals as stated by Trump when we actually did pull the trigger were all over the board. And to this moment, he's pushing the BS claim that we affected regime change. No, we didn't. It's the same regime, just different players. There isn't somebody more moderate in there at all. We have no reason to believe that. In fact, it looks like the Iranian Revolutionary Guard is in control now, which is far more radical. And the fatwa that had allegedly been issued by the Ayatollah on developing nukes is gone. Iran is more powerful economically. It controls the strait and now is demanding the lifting of all sanctions against it. And what Trump did with that 10-point plan was go from Monday saying, no, not good, to Tuesday saying, very workable, we can do it, as a means of saving face to bail off of his insane threats about annihilating an entire civilization. So I don't know how we got here, Piers. I'd like to know just as much as anybody else, but all I can think in my head, based on what I've read in the paper, is we got here thanks to Bibi Netanyahu, Lindsey Graham, and Mark Levin. And ultimately President Trump. That's not to take agency away from the president, who was bamboozled. I don't know why. He was too weak to say no. He was too gullible to see through the lies. One way or another, he allowed himself to be pushed into this insane conflict that caused, forget, the blood and treasure we spilled. As you point out, at least 15 service personnel, I believe, were being lied to about the total number of dead and wounded. But we don't know what the accurate death toll in Iran is. How many civilians in Iran died? How many died in our allies around Iran who now don't trust us? What penalty do we pay other than the cost and the 15 lives that we expended, which count for a lot? But we didn't take the brunt of Iran's response. Our allies did, with whom we did not consult prior to starting this war, who are very, very angry, many of them, about what was done to them.
As they should
What's going to happen to the trillions of dollars Trump was touting that they donated? They were offered to donate to the United States just to be nice guys and have great relations. You think they're going to spend that on us now? They're going to spend it on themselves. They've got to rebuild massive portions of their own countries thanks to the bombing campaign unleashed against them, because they were within reach, by Iran, who couldn't reach us. So we've upset our allies. We've pleased Israel, although now they're upset there's a ceasefire. We've upset the American base. The Trump coalition that got him elected is completely fractured and in smithereens. And he doesn't care, Piers, because he doesn't care about the Republican Party. He cares about himself. If Trump had to get reelected, he probably would have handled this a little differently. But he doesn't care that the Republicans are going to lose the midterms. I think he thought that was a foregone conclusion. And I don't think he cares that J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio wins the presidency next time around. I think there's a piece of Trump that would like to say, I'm the only one who could do it. The Republican Party's nothing without me. And the rest of us are going to be around to pick up the pieces.
I mean, a fascinating assessment. I mean, I remember early on you picking up, as I did, on what Rubio had said about the reason why America went in. And then the immediate backtracking the next day when they panicked and realized they'd let the cat out of the bag. This was clearly a Netanyahu-driven operation. He had persuaded Trump to come with him. Then we had Antony Blinken saying, well, actually, he tried to do this when Biden was president, when Obama was president, and both times those two guys said, no, we're not going to come with you. And then he didn't attack. So he clearly got third time lucky with an American president that would come with him. But I remember early on, you and I and others who dared to suggest that we take Rubio at his word, that actually this was all at Israel's behest. Once again, we were anti-Semitic if we said that. This was a hatred of Israel that was driving our warped, crazed minds. And then you read this deep dive in the New York Times. Fascinating. I mean, what's most fascinating to me, they've got somebody on the inside telling them exactly what happened in that situation room, which is fascinating. But when you see it all laid out, it's crystal clear. That's exactly what happened. That Netanyahu got in that situation room at the White House, like you say, unprecedented. The way he had the guy from Mossad on the big screen, he had him there with his... It was like two equal partners. And he persuaded Trump in that room to go in. And I think Trump will regret this. Well, you're right. He may not care. He may want to just say, moving on, it's a big victory, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is nobody thinks this was a big victory for the United States. Nobody can see anything but actually a bit of a humiliation. Not militarily, because America can beat anyone when it comes to a military punch-up. But what Iran has now discovered is that as long as it can control the Strait of Hormuz, it can control the global economy, and therefore it can, if it has enough patience, play out the long game with the President of the United States, who will have to cave, because ultimately it's going to cause him so much economic and political damage, he has no choice. That's what's happened here. Trump hasn't brought this to an end out of some great desire for peace. He's brought it to an end because he could see that the economic and political damage was getting worse by the day.
Because the Iranians wouldn't fold. They realized what the pressure point was and that it was working. And they watched Trump's poll numbers spiral downward in every piece of the coalition that elected him. And they realized that their ability to just withstand the beating was working, was getting them to where they needed to get. Because, look, there was never majority support behind this war. There wasn't some groundswell of support behind this war, right? There was a Republican-based support for the war, but the Democrats didn't support it. The independents didn't support it. And very soon into the war, the Republicans stopped supporting it too. MAGA supported it. As MAGA dwindled, by the way, it was already only about 15% of the population. It's getting smaller by the day. President Trump 3 weeks ago declared that to be MAGA, you have to support Mark Levin, where upon which multiple formerly diehard MAGA people who are dedicated to it said, I'm out. I'm out. If those are the stakes, I'm out. Why would I support that warmonger who's frothing at the mouth over the idea of lives being cost in Iran, civilian or otherwise? He's a disgusting fool who's well past his prime. We should not be listening to him, but President Trump is obsessed. On Sunday, he tweeted out that the Supreme Court should be listening to Mark Levin.
I know.
All 9 justices, which would double his viewership.
Yeah, I don't get it because you've been loudly calling out the folly of this war from day one. I have, Tucker has, Candace Owens has, Joe Rogan has, Theo Von has. I mean, there is a massive cross-section of people in our world, which is what I call the unfiltered world, where you're not controlled perhaps by other forces that own networks and so on, that sort of send out a directive about what you should and shouldn't be saying. So in the free spirit world, where you can say what you really think, pretty much everyone has been agreed. This looked like madness. There's a very interesting piece, I think, with Stephen Chung pops up in the New York Times piece, who emerges as one of the smarter characters, actually, that Trump has around him, who said, well, how does all this sit with we're not going to go and wage war in the Middle East, which is what we campaigned on? How does it sit with America first? This will have an obvious effect on prices, on inflation, on gas pump costs and so on. How does any of this work? And there's no real answer, according to New York Times, in the room to that. He just raises this specter of, this is the elephant in the room. This is exactly the opposite to what we campaigned on. So I think politically it's been disastrous for Donald Trump. And I just don't understand, other than he got bamboozled by Netanyahu, why he took such a gigantic risk.
I don't either. And it wasn't just Steve Chung, who is a master messenger and saw the storm coming. It was J.D. Vance, who, according to the New York Times, was in there specifically saying, it's going to fracture the coalition. And boy, is that an understatement. Trump is now underwater, and he wasn't before, with men. Don't forget the gender divide that happened in 2024. The women went overwhelmingly for Kamala Harris, and men went for Trump. Now he's underwater with men, including with young men and young people. The young person coalition that Charlie Kirk delivered to the president is gone. They've abandoned Donald Trump. The working class, Piers. The latest poll that just came out showed he's 2 points underwater with the working class. That's been Trump's base from the beginning. They were the unshakable foundation that got him elected over and over. And they're gone. They're very angry. They care about what's happening in Iowa, not Iran.
Where they caught?
They don't want days and days and more weeks of debates over the Strait of Hormuz. No one cares. They care about their own lives. They care about the fact that they can't pay for health care. They can't buy a home. Young people cannot get a home, even though 2 people are working nonstop, round the clock, with no vacations in this country. President Trump promised he would do something about that. Now we see the leaked soundbite saying, can't really worry about anything at the federal government level other than military. Everything else has to be done at the state. Then they pulled that down off the internet because they didn't mean to share it. He said it at an Easter breakfast that was supposed to be private. Well, it's going to be the campaign ad for every Democrat in these midterms. So he's lost working class, he's lost men, he's lost young people, he lost Hispanics by some 50 points. Every single gain with Hispanics is now gone. It's eradicated. Blacks, he had made some inroads with black voters. Done. You name it, they're all gone. The question is now not who has he lost, the question is who remains. And sure, it's the diehard MAGA. Trump can do no wrong. He's some savant. Whatever he says is right. That's great. He'll always have those people. You can't win national elections with some fraction of 15% of the electorate. The vast majority of Republicans would call themselves America First, but not necessarily MAGA, certainly not the way Trump is now defining that term. And he misunderstood his own base twice critically in the past year, and both times are really undermining him right now. One was Epstein, thinking he could just say, well, Epstein, who still cares about that? No one's talking about Epstein. He misread the base, which very much cared about Epstein, not so much because they care about Jeffrey Epstein, but they care about elites being able to get away with murder and protect each other when the common man cannot. And the unwillingness to turn over stones that the base had been demanding be turned over so we could figure out, is there some sort of child predator sex ring? Is there an elite cabal working to hurt people that gets protected because they have money and we don't? And Trump could not get rid of that with a shrug of a shoulder, and ultimately it resulted in legislation he had to pretend he favored that was crammed down his throat and he had to sign, though it had enough loopholes in it to drive a Mack truck through. But in any event, it was a step forward on Epstein that he didn't want to make and was forced to. And this is the second one. And this is a much, much bigger and more serious betrayal of what he ran on and of what was important to his base, which does include the America Firsters and not just MAGA. Or as Marjorie Taylor Greene has been saying, at this point, she's not America First, she's America only. And I think a lot of us are getting to that point. We are sick of being the policemen of the world, of being dragged into conflict after conflict by Bibi Netanyahu, by Israel, who's supposed to be our special ally, but what they're special at is getting us to fight their wars and get involved in their conflicts that they can't fight by themselves. That's what Dan Kane said to President Trump the day after Netanyahu came for the 7th time and was sitting in that situation room like an equal. He said that they're great on intelligence. That's supposed to be the area in which they're so special to us. They share their intelligence. They're great on it. But that intelligence doesn't always seem to pan out. Like, the regime will fall easily. The Iranian people will revolt in the streets and take over. With how? They don't have guns. Bombs would be raining down. Wasn't this thought through? There isn't regime change. The Iranian people are arguably worse off than they were before, and it's all based on Bibi Netanyahu's special intelligence, which cost at least 15 American lives, the fracturing of the Trump coalition, probably at least the next 2 elections for Republicans, not to mention the amount of lives and blood and treasure that was spilled in the Middle East. So great job.
Megan, got to leave it there. Wish I could talk to you for another hour because it's blistering stuff, but you're so right. You said at the start, one word, folly. What a folly it's been. And I think the repercussions are going to be enormous. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Good to see you.
Just about everybody on all sides of the Iran war debate is taking a victory lap today. Everybody was right, it seems, and everybody has won. The notable exception is Israel, as we speak, is continuing to pound Lebanon. Israeli officials say the ceasefire doesn't include Lebanon and the war must go on, a direct contradiction of the Pakistani and US position.
Yeah.
Today, the leader of Israel's opposition said that if this ceasefire is as good as it gets, it will amount to, quote, one of the most severe strategic failures in Israeli history. None of this bodes well for a permanent end to the war, unless that is President Trump is about to break with Bibi Netanyahu.
I gotta go. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
We'll
finish this tomorrow.
To end Iranian civilization.
A long video.